Did you know that about 30% of people in the United States live in an HOA community? That's over 75 million people, guys. This is something I want to dive a little bit deeper into because HOAs are gaining popularity in terms of how many of them are being produced, and I think a lot of people are not going to be too happy with this in the end, because what it's doing is it's eliminating choices on where you can live, kind of like the whole electric car mandate thing, which we're not going to get into in this video, but it's similar in the sense that it's taking away the choice, right? It's taking away the choice of, do I want to live in an HOA or not? Because when 66% of all the newly completed homes in 2022 were part of an HOA, that's a scary number, guys, because in 2011, it was only 17%. So we're talking in just about 10 years that the number of homes being produced is now 66% in an HOA versus 17%. That's a massive increase, and it's something that people who want to buy a home or are just looking to move in the future need to be aware of, because this affects renters too. It doesn't really matter if you own or rent. If you're in an HOA, you are subject to the HOA's rules. Now, if you live in an HOA community, the typical monthly HOA fee is about $200 to $300 per month in a single family home HOA community. Now, that sounds kind of high when you have a single family home community, because usually they don't offer much in the way of amenities, maybe a clubhouse and a pool, an exercise room, you know, and then the property's gated. Maybe they go around and take care of the lawn a little bit, but usually that stuff's left up to you. Usually you got to take care of your own yard and maintain your own property and this and that. So that does seem kind of high, but that's the average across the country. And to just give you the scale of how much these HOA communities have increased over the years, in 1970, there was about 10,000 HOA communities in the United States, and as of the 2020 census, there was 355,000, and you can guarantee it's well over that now, especially at the rate that they're being produced. And take a look at this graph. This just goes to show you how much this has grown exponentially since 1970, and this does include all HOA communities with single-family homes, condos, and co-ops. So it's everything. It's not just the single-family home HOA communities, but anywhere there's an HOA is included in this graph, and as you can see, it has grown substantially. Here we have a new construction house for only $20 million. No big deal. Let's just go pick that up. They bought it back in 2017 for $2.7 million, knocked down the old house and built this one. They started off asking almost $25 million back in the middle of 2023, and have now dropped their asking price by almost $5 million, no takers, with a property tax bill of over $60,000 a year. Have fun with that one, guys. Thing is, some of this data regarding HOAs and all the new builds is kind of skewed a little bit, because according to the Census Bureau, about 84% of newly built single-family homes in 2022 belonged to homeowners associations, okay? And right now, it is almost impossible to go out there and buy a brand new house anywhere across the country and it's not part of an HOA, guys. And before you think, oh, well, it's the home builders, you know, they want to put you in the HOA, actually, most of the time, it is the local government that is requiring this. And it makes perfect sense, right? Because when the local government requires that the newly built community be an HOA, what they're doing is shifting the responsibility of building the roads and building the infrastructure and all of this away from the city and onto the people who are moving into the HOA. You have to pay higher HOA fees because of it. And so the local cities, they transfer all the responsibilities onto the HOA. Everything from trash pickup, recycling pickup, snow removal, sidewalk and street maintenance, you know, the lighting, the stormwater management, all of that stuff is shifted over to the homeowners. So that's why you're seeing local cities start to mandate all these new developments or HOAs, because they can continue collecting high tax dollars. You still have to pay property taxes, right? That's the thing. Like, okay, that should be fine. We can be forced to have an HOA community, but everybody in the newly built HOA shouldn't have to pay property taxes if you're shifting all the responsibility that the property taxes are for onto the HOA, guys. That's only fair. But instead, you're getting robbed twice when you're buying into one of these new communities in this situation. And it really sucks because especially today, buying a brand new home is where typically people are finding the best deals when it comes to the price, when it comes to the long-term interest rate, when it comes to the amount of amenities and upgrades they're getting on the home for free. You know, the home builders are really giving people the much better deal right now than an existing home, but can you handle living in an HOA? Are you okay with paying high property taxes on a brand new house and you're not even receiving any services from your actual city? The HOA fees that you're paying on top of that are covering it, guys. That is criminal. But despite all of this, here's some interesting observations. According to a homeowner satisfaction survey, 89% rate their overall experience of living in an HOA as good, and 87% say members of their elected governing board serve the best interests of their community. 76% say their community manager provides value and support to residents and their association, and 89% say their association's rules protect and enhance property values. So the interesting thing about this survey is, number one, I didn't get it because I live in an HOA community, and I would like to give my opinion on that. But anyways, it seems like the vast majority of people that took this survey are pretty happy with their HOA, and it has to make you wonder, are they just lucky? Are the trade-offs of not having to do as much maintenance worth it for them, and that's why they're saying this? Or are these places actually run well, and that's why they're happy and they're willing to shell out the extra few $100s a month to be in an HOA, and they don't mind all the rules? Because take a look behind me here, guys. Like, look at this. If this was an HOA, this wouldn't fly. You wouldn't be able to park cars like this on somebody's side of the yard in some multi-million-dollar mansion here. Like, look at that. Look at this construction truck here, this whole thing. You think this would fly in an HOA? Absolutely not. But once again, the data is mixed up here because you have 89% of people saying that they're overall satisfied with their HOA, but then they have more data here saying that more than half, which is 50% of homeowners with an HOA, dislike the arrangement, and about 30% say they feel their HOA has too much power. And that's a separate study conducted by Rocket Mortgage in 2023. And some states like Florida, for example, and also Maryland and North Carolina are introducing laws to kind of peel back the amount of power that HOAs have, because you can argue that some of these HOAs have too much power, and some of their laws can even supersede the local laws. And if you get a couple power-hungry people on the board that just want to do things their way, you know, this can quickly turn a nice peaceful HOA into a nightmare. Now, as somebody that lives in a condo, obviously we have a condo association. You don't call it a HOA, but it's all the same thing, you know, it's a condo association, and it runs the same way, guys. You know, we have our rules, and you have the board that decides on new rules. They make the budget every year, and they keep the place running, right? They make all the decisions on, you know, which contractors we hire and all of that kind of stuff. And having a good board versus a bad one can really make a difference on how well or poorly an HOA is run. I've been fortunate enough to have a very good board, I would say most of the time where we live. No one's ever perfect, but compared to a lot of the other ones I've seen, guys, that are complete nightmares, I would say I'm pretty grateful for the people that are running our board right now. Sometimes the rules can be a little much, but you know, I can probably count on one hand over all the years I've been living in a condo on how many times, you know, one of the rules interfere with my lifestyle. Usually it's not a big deal, but there are some things that suck. Like in the past, I wanted to work on my own car. Can't do that, you know. The amenities close at a certain times. If you want to go for a midnight swim in the pool, you can't do it, you know. Pool closes at 11. So just things like that are not a huge deal, but sometimes it can be a nuisance if it interferes with what you want to do. I mean, look at all these cars parked on the side of the road here, guys. How much do you think that house costs back there? That's probably a $30 million mansion, if not more. And you have cars parked on the grass here. People ask me about this all the time in the videos. How can they get away with this, or why do they do it? Well, first of all, this is not an HOA, so they can do that. But that's one thing that people like about HOAs, is that this wouldn't fly in an HOA. So you have to kind of decide, are you the kind of person that can't stand looking at that, especially in front of a $30 million house? Does that bother you? And if it does, maybe an HOA is right for you. But if you want the freedom and you don't mind having your neighbors having the freedom to do that as well, then you don't want to be in an HOA. That almost eliminates all new construction for you. You're almost forced to look at existing neighborhoods if you don't want to be in an HOA, which really sucks. And what really sucks even more is that people who buy into these new developments don't have a say-so in the matter. At least if there was going to be a new development built, you know, once they get a certain percentage of units sold there, they should have a vote. They should be able to decide, you know, do you guys want this to be an HOA community or not? It shouldn't be up to local governments to decide that because they're not the ones living there. Even like this here, guys, how do you have all this construction going on in an HOA like that? Cement truck on the wrong side of the road, you know, all these cars parked there, the noise. I'm sure if this was in an HOA, people would be screaming at the top of their lungs about this. By the way, as a side note here, guys, like literally every time I come out to make these videos now, like there's just construction, landscapers, and maintenance crews everywhere up and down all these streets in these neighborhoods. You know, people pay big bucks to stay in these really fancy neighborhoods, and you try to get some peace and quiet. Oh, I just paid $15 million for this house here. Fat chance you're not going to be getting any peace and quiet, which is kind of crazy. But because there's no HOA, right, in charge of that, then that's kind of one of the downsides of not having an HOA is people can get away with all this stuff, all this noise, all this construction going on 24/7, and no one's here to stop it. Now, supposedly, and I say supposedly because I don't know this for a fact, but they say having a well-maintained HOA neighborhood keeps property values higher than surrounding non-HOA neighborhoods by about $15,000 per house or so. So it's not a huge difference, but it is a little bit higher according to the data. They say on average a house in an HOA versus one that's not is worth about 5 to 6% more. Whoopity-doo, because you're going to be paying a lot more than that in HOA fees over the years, you know, so that little extra that your house is worth is easily going to be wiped out by paying HOA dues for 5 years. Now, one of the other benefits of living in HOA is reduced maintenance and upkeep, which is probably one of the main things that I like about it personally, is I don't have to cut the grass. I don't have to go outside and, you know, deal with things around the side of the house and spend my spare time doing that. I get to spend my spare time doing the things that I actually want to do. And then of course we do have the amenities. That's another benefit of having an HOA, you know, and it really depends on how much you utilize those amenities, if that's really valuable to you. Personally, I don't think that for the amount of amenities that we have, it justifies what we pay in HOA fees, not even close.
Now we have a much smaller house here for $3 million, and this one is a flip gone wrong. They bought this place back in August of 2023 for $2.5 million, quickly turned around and listed it for $3.5 million, thinking they were gonna get rich quick, couldn't sell it, rented the house instead for only $7,700 a month, guys, and they were asking $13,500 before finally renting it for $7,750. Now they're down to asking $3 million for the house, and nobody will buy it. This is what happens when you're greedy and you have a property tax bill of $45,000 a year.
I've shared with you guys in the channel before that, you know, the vast majority of the expense of our HOA fees in our condo is just to keep the building going, guys. Like insurance is a giant part of it now. All the utilities, you know, the water bill, the trash pickup, you know, paying for the staff to keep things moving around there, to keep all the garbage cleaned up, to keep everything going is the lion's share of the monthly budget there. Also, we have reserves, which is going to be a requirement starting in 2025. You need to contribute a significant chunk of change to that every single month. Another benefit they say about having an HOA is a sense of community. Now, I think you can have that with or without an HOA, but some people claim, you know, there's more community gatherings and activities, and people have an increased opportunity to socialize with each other in the amenities and stuff like that. And that might be good for some people, but that's, once again, should go into your buying or renting decision. Because for somebody like me, even though I'm on camera all the time and you guys see me, guys, like, I am not the most social person in real life. Like, in fact, I'm kind of antisocial because I'm out here so much on the internet, talking to you guys, replying to comments, and also talking to people in real life sometimes. Like when I want to just go to the pool and relax or whatever, kind of like the last thing I want to do is chat with one of the neighbors. I just want to be left alone, you know? I just want peace and quiet. So honestly, living in an HOA is not really for me in that sense. But some people might like that, you know, especially if you're retired and you want to be able to hang out with people on the regular basis. You know, I see a lot of people that live at the Villages, for example. I've been there a couple times. They love it because of that. They get to hang out with their retired buddies every day, playing golf, you know, doing classes and all the stuff that they offer there. And that can be great depending on the phase of life you're in. But of course, there are downsides to the HOA as well, and we have talked about a few of those already in this video. But the number one thing is the rules, guys. Like, if you cannot handle the rules, you should not buy in an HOA. It's that simple. Like, you should not do it because you're going to regret it later on. You're going to be wishing that you lived in a freer community where you can just kind of do whatever you want, and the HOA is going to ruin that for you. And this can be especially hard for people like moving to Florida, for example, because Florida is one of the states that has the most HOA communities in the country, guys. Like, it's in the top 3. When I was up in St. Augustine and Palm Coast on my way back to Miami on my road trip, I was up there looking at houses because I love the area and I think I would like to move there in the future. And it's not that easy to find a house that isn't in an HOA. I would say probably 2/3 of the listings you come across that kind of match what you want are an HOA community. Even sometimes the HOA is small, like maybe $60 a month or something, but it's not about the cost at that point. It's about, I don't want to be in an HOA, but you don't have a choice. But sometimes it is about the cost, because sometimes the HOA fees can be expensive. As we talked about here, you know, the average across the country is $200 to $300 a month. In condos, especially here in Florida, it can be much higher, guys. I know buildings where the HOA fees are probably more than most of your mortgages out there. There's buildings here in Miami where the HOA fee is $2,500 to $5,000 a month. Now that's on the high end, of course, but it's out there. And I would even say the average now, just for a one-bedroom condo here in Miami, you're looking at least $600 a month HOA fee. If you're paying less than that, chances are the building's not collecting the proper amount of money to maintain the building properly, and they are severely underfunded, is most likely the case. 2-bedroom, you can be expected to pay, you know, close to $1,000 a month these days. 3-bedroom, probably like $1,400, $1,500 a month, guys. Now, of course, it's gonna be less than that if you live in a smaller complex that has really no amenities or anything like that. But the more amenities and the closer it is to the beach, the more money it's gonna cost, that's for sure. And one of the worst problems with an HOA, besides the cost and everything else involved, is if the HOA is poorly run, this can be a disaster, guys, and you have no control over this if you're not on the board. And even if you are on the board, you can't control what the other board members do or what they don't do, you know, the negligence that can be there. I've told this story before, but when I was in California, there was a condo complex in Sausalito that I came across, and they were so upside down on their yearly budget, guys, it was insane. Like, literally, they were in a budget deficit for the past 2 years and were projected to continually be in a budget deficit for the next 3 years. Like, they're losing 6 figures a year because people are not paying the HOA fees there, and they're also not collecting enough in HOA fees. So a buyer that walks into a place like this and says, oh, this looks great, the price is good, and the HOA fee is only $400 a month. Great, I want this. And if they don't do any of their due diligence and look into this further to see why is the HOA fee only $400 a month, that HOA fee can quickly turn into $800 a month or $1,000 a month once they have to start collecting what they really should be collecting in order to just keep the place afloat. And this is also why when the hammer drops in 2025 here, which requires all of the condos to have full reserves from now on, this is going to cause massive problems with people that live in these communities, because you're going to see buildings and communities where HOA fees will triple overnight, guys. This is going to happen to people. It's going to bankrupt a ton of people. It's going to cause a lot of forced selling, and it's really going to change the landscape of real estate here for years to come, is my guess. But just like everything else with government, because this is a government mandated thing, I can see that when 2025 comes, when it's right around the corner, them delaying this and pushing this off a couple of years, because you're going to get a lot of people, you know, freaking out and complaining and saying, hey, we're going to be homeless because of this and everything else, and saying, oh, we're not ready, even though they've had 2 years of warning, 3 years of warning actually, to get prepared for it. You know what I'm saying? So I could easily see that happening and it getting delayed past 2025, but we won't know until the time comes closer. A lot of people are also saying, oh, Michael, you should sell your condo and get out of there before it becomes a disaster. And I have mixed feelings about this because, first of all, I like the location of where I live, and my wife needs to live there in order to even run her business, first of all. So there's like a couple of big factors that keeps us where we're at. But besides that, it is convenient, guys. Like, I gotta say, like, I wanna keep doing these summer trips to California and take advantage of the beautiful weather over there and get away from the heat here in the summer. And it is nice to be able to just close the hurricane shutters, lock the place up, and have your security system enabled, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else to worry about. I don't have to worry about break-ins, you know, to the point where people have to with an exposed house. You know, here somebody can just jump the fence and crawl through your window and be in your house. It's not that simple when you live in a high-rise. You know, there's security, there's key fobs, there's, you know, things you have to bypass in order to even be able to break into somebody's place. And even if someone was able to break in, they probably aren't going to be able to get away with it because they're going to be trapped in the building. So the level of convenience that it offers for my particular lifestyle at right now is pretty tough to beat. Now, I would say I would like to change the type of HOA if I'm going to live in one. If I could do it all over again right now, but I still had to be in an HOA, I would at least want to move to a townhouse. And here's why. Like, number one, no more elevator, guys. I would never, ever, ever live in a building again with an elevator. And I'll tell you why. Because my building has 3 elevators, okay? And for the longest time, the service elevator was out of commission because there was a small fire, and the city of Miami Beach says, oh no, you can't operate this elevator anymore until the entire thing gets replaced. And the same city that required us to get this elevator replaced also said, well, it's going to take a while to get the permits for all of this. So we literally sat there with no service elevator for like almost 3 years in our building. That's how long it took to get the permits and to actually get the whole thing repaired and in working order, guys. So 3 years, no service elevator, which means we only had 2 elevators left, and the other 2 were very old, and sometimes one of them would break down. So guess what that means? Only 1 elevator for the entire building. So you go from 3 to 1. And I would never, ever want to deal with that again. And we still only have 2. You have the service elevator that's been brought back into service. You have 1 elevator that's still one of the old ones, and now they're working on remodeling one of the other ones. And then when that one's done, they're going to remodel the last remaining one. So eventually, it's going to be an issue that'll be resolved, you know, who knows when, supposedly this year. But I would never, ever want to be in a place again with an elevator, number 1. And number 2, when you're in a townhouse, the HOA fees tend to be quite a bit lower than a condo for whatever reason. I don't know why, but when I look at different townhouse communities, the HOA fees are usually half of what a high-rise building is. So you have lower fees, and also you can just walk right outside your front door without waiting for elevators and all that, so that is nice. And depending on the place, it can still be gated and still have security, so you could potentially still have that get up and go lifestyle of let's just lock the place up and leave for a few months and not worry about it. It's not quite as exposed as just a regular house on the street here. Now, one last thing I wanted to cover here is I did a poll on my channel a few days ago about starting the real estate course, and you guys have spoken. There's almost 3,000 votes. Thank you for voting, for everybody who did. And 67% of you say that you don't want to have a real estate course, and only 33% of you said that you do. So listen, guys, I listen to you. One thing I care more about than anything else on my channel is that I'm providing you the value that you came here for, okay? That is my top priority. Since most of you don't want this, I'm not going to do it. It's that simple. And I'm sorry to the people who do want it, it's just not going to happen. I always want to please the majority. What I do want to do is I want to continue making videos that you're going to enjoy watching, that you get value from. And one thing I've seen lately, there's been this huge trend on YouTube, which you might have noticed. There's like a lot of YouTubers who are quitting YouTube, right? People are like giving up because of all the pressure and, you know, working too much and all of this. And luckily for me, I have found a very good balance in my life for producing these videos. Now, I can't produce more than I am producing now without really causing me some headaches, so I'm not going to. And I just want to let you guys know that things are going to stay the same. I'm not going to be, amping up my production value to some Mr. Beast level. I still shoot all these videos on my iPhone for anybody who wants to know. But since I won't be making the real estate course, for anybody who really loves my channel and wants to continue to support it, the best and easiest thing you can do that is always going to be free is to just watch all the videos, guys. Even if you're not interested in the video, watch it anyways. Maybe you'll find something in there that you might like. That's the number one thing that all of you can do to support the channel. And if you want to go above and beyond that, which would be very generous of you, but it's definitely not a requirement, you can become a channel member. That's something I offer. It's very cheap. I think it's like $3 a month or something like that. And it just helps me do this full time. But I really don't care about the extra money from the course and all of this, guys. Like, I would much rather keep my viewers satisfied. I personally have seen so many YouTube channels where every video is sponsored, every video it's buy my course, and every video it's just like annoying, right? Like, get out of here, unsubscribe, right? I've done that myself. I don't watch a bunch of those people anymore for that same exact reason, and I am definitely not about to do the same thing to my audience. That being said, there will be some sponsored videos. In fact, yesterday's video was a sponsored video, but it will be kept within reason. Just so you guys know, I refuse 98% of the sponsorship deals that come my way because it just doesn't fit with what I believe in, what I want to promote, and I just feel like some things are just not reputable either. So once again, thank you for watching my videos, and if you guys enjoyed it, make sure you're subscribed, and if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.